to get going with a little stream of some single-player action of Race for the Galaxy, which is something that I and my team made because we love this board game and we wanted to bring it to phones. So it is on phones and tablets this week. So basically, Race for the Galaxy is this board game that is all about expanding a space empire. And you are going to be placing settlements and developments, which are these cards in my hand, which you can see with the cursor now. So the settlements are the ones with the circle icons here, and the developments are the ones with the diamonds. Those are, the numbers in there are the costs. So when you're going to place a world into your empire, you're going to have to pay for it, and you pay for it with other cards. So there get to be some really interesting strategies because you start thinking about what cards you're going to retain as the things you're placing in your empire, and what cards you're going to get rid of because they are just going to act as currency. And that can be a tough choice because you can end up wanting to keep a lot of really nice, juicy, expensive cards, but that will bite you because then you'll have nothing to pay for them with. So at the very start of the game, every player is dealt 6 cards and they're going to draft 4. For new players, I like to say just sometimes you want to ditch the expensive ones because it's the beginning of the game, and just like if you're playing Magic or any of these other games, you should have some restraint, not try to go for the most expensive bomb that you can get out there right away. You just want to put something cheap. So I might just go ahead and get rid of Galactic Federation because that's a 6-cost development. It's going to be a while before I can afford to play something like that, and hopefully I draw another 6-cost development that's going to complement my strategy better down the road. And I'm also going to get rid of this military card here because I think I'm going to go with a non-military strategy. That seems to be what my cards are telling me. I can tell that because every player has their own starting world, which is something that you draw at random. Each player's starting world is unique, and it kind of sets them off on a little bit of a direction as they play. So my starting world is Earth's Lost Colony, and Patrick did this awesome little zoom thing so you can see everything that's happening with this one. So with Earth's Lost Colony, it is a production world. I can tell that because it has this filled in circle, and also it has a little production power down here. My AI-1 opponent has Epsilon Eridani as their starting planet. They've got a little military to go. And New Sparta, which has got a lot of military too to start with. That is exactly double what Epsilon Eridani has. So the way the game is going to work is we're going to be placing our stuff as soon as any player reaches 12 cards in their empire. That's going to trigger the end of the game, as long as they have 12 cards at the end of the round. Otherwise, this victory point pool over here is going to get exhausted throughout the game, so if that gets depleted, then that will also trigger the game. At that point, you're going to see who has the most points. Points come from these victory point chits here, and also every card has an intrinsic point value on the hexagon here, and hexagons are kind of like the indicator of what a victory point is in this game. So that's how you trigger the game end, but what are you trying to do as you play this game? You have a couple things that are going on. First of all, everyone is going to be choosing a role secretly and simultaneously. One of the really cool things about Race for the Galaxy is it's not a game where everyone takes a turn one at a time and everyone has to wait. You're all taking your turns at the same time, which is really nice. It speeds things along quite a bit. So those roles that you're choosing are these numbers over here. There's going to be explore, develop, settle, consume, and produce. And you'll notice that actually all the cards have a similar structure of these phases on the left-hand side, and some of them will give you powers. So if you have a card in play and it gives you a power in a particular phase, every time that phase gets chosen, you will exercise that power, regardless of whether you chose that phase or not. So what you end up wanting to do is choose a phase that is going to probably use the it's going to probably you're going to want to choose a phase that has you have a lot of powers in, and your opponents don't have so many powers in. Like this opponent doesn't have too many explore powers right now, so I might want to go with explore. You'll see how it goes. Let's see. Okay. Bear with me. There's a lot of rules in this game, but it's totally worth it if you just kind of stick with it. So I'll kind of break down what some of these phases are. So in the explore phase, you're really looking for new cards. In the develop phase, that's when you build those diamond technology cards. In the settle phase, that's when you build these kinds of circle, world, planet cards. In the consume phases, you can either turn your cards, which you have as goods on your planets, which I'll talk about, into either cards, which are more currency, or victory points. And then in the produce phase, you can put goods on your planets. You can put 1 good per production world. So like I said, you start out with a hand of 6 cards, and you can start ditching cards. Once you get down to 4, you can lock that in, and the game begins. So right now, every single player is choosing which phase that they want to activate. If you choose a phase, you are going to get a bonus, and you look at see what the bonuses are for every phase by double tapping them. So explore, I can either do the steep explore, in which everyone draws 2 cards and keeps 1, but my bonus is I get to draw an additional 5, so I would draw 7 cards and keep 1. I can do a shallow explore, which is very similar, except for instead of drawing an extra 5, I'm drawing an extra 1, keeping an extra 1, so I end up drawing 3 cards and keeping 2. I can do, and I sort of talked through the rest. If you choose the development phase, your bonus is that you pay 1 less for development. Choose the settle phase, your bonus is that you get an extra card after you place a planet. I think I'm going to go ahead and choose the development phase. Locked it in. So I'm going to place this colony ship because this colony ship has a power on it, which says I can discard this card from my empire in the future on a settlement phase. I know that's settlement phase because it's phase 3. I can discard that card to place a settlement for 0. And I chose that one because I have some expensive settlements here. This 3 cost and this 4 cost. So I'm sort of investing in the future, and I'm going to pay this card to do that. I am not the best player of this game in the world. I have played hundreds of games of Race for the Galaxy, but I still get whipped all the time. So if you are a really good player and you're just laughing at my decisions here, that's probably appropriate. And now I can settle a world, and that happened because one of my opponents chose the settlement phase here. And so even though I didn't choose settle, I chose develop, I still have an opportunity to settle a card, which works out really nicely. And I think I'll go ahead and get this black market trading world. I will pay for it, even though I don't have the 3 cards it would normally cost. I can pay for it with my colony ship power because it's a settlement phase, and I have a power there. Lock that in. So Easy AI 2, I'm playing against Easy AIs right now, settled this plague world. That is a cool planet to start out with because even though it doesn't have a lot of victory points attached to it, it produces a relatively valuable good, a genes good, and genes goods typically are worth 4. There's sort of a standard trade rate. Green is worth 4, green is genes, novelty is worth 2, rare is worth 3, and alien is worth 5. And the rarity kind of increases, so these blue weenie worlds that have low value cards are really common. The rare alien worlds are less common, but they produce high value goods, so kind of lends to different types of strategies. I think. Hi, Tyler. Thanks for checking out the stream. Have fun at your appointment. I'll miss you. Miss you sorely. Okay, I'm going to. So it's now time to. The round is over. So it's now time to choose another phase for the next round. And this time, because I have the black market trading world, I kind of want a good, because what that black market trading world does for me is it gives me a free trade power if anyone in the entire game chooses any of the consume actions. So I'm going to produce so that I have a good to be ready for that. And now I'll explore. So again, this is when you are drawing. I did the shallow explore, so I draw 3 and I keep 2. I think I will get rid of this one since I already said I was going to go non-military. And my opponent chose Explore as well. One of my opponents chose Consume Trade, and that was because they have this nice Gene's good, which they're going to get a bunch of cards. But I can piggyback off of that, and I was ready for it by producing this good here. So I can either use either one of my Consume powers at this time. I have to use as many as I can. So I can choose to either turn this blue good into a victory point with this power here over on Earth's Lost Colony, or I can trade with my trade power I have here on Black Market Trading World. And I think I'll do that because it's early in the game, I want more cards, and maybe later in the game I'm going to switch to a victory point engine if I can build one. So here I go, drag this off, and I automatically get 2 cards from the deck. The nice thing about the app is that it sort of manages all of the card drawing and all of the point management and stuff, so you make less errors as you're playing, which is really good. And also, it's just really nice to play with expansions, and you don't have to, like, you know, deal out tons and tons of cards. So I get kind of lazy, and I like that. But I still love the physical app too. I still play that, or the physical game too. I play that all the time. All right, so I think for my next decision, I don't know if anyone's still watching here. I think I'm gonna go for, you know, if someone's watching and they can play race, you should tell me what decisions to make, and I will totally let you drive here, because I think that would be fun. But until anyone suggests something, I will just go ahead and decide to do, maybe I'll do a development phase. I'll do this one. This one just says every development that I built is going to cost me 1 less card when I pay for it. What I'm really looking for is more production worlds, and I'm kind of not finding them. I probably should be doing some exploring, so I'll just do that now. Hey, and I found one. Cool. So I said I was going non-military, and I drew 3 cards. One of them is military. You can tell that because this card has a red number in the center and a little red outline here. So that means that instead of paying for it with cards like you normally would, you pay with military. And right now I have no military in my empire. I can see that my opponents have 3 and 2, and this 3 number is coming from the cards that they've already built in their tableau. So this player has Space Marines, which gave them 2 military, and Epsilon Ardani, which gave them 1. So they have a total of 3, which means from now on they can build any card, any settlement that is a military world of cost up to 3 with no cost whatsoever. So you kind of tend to choose what kind of currency you're leaning on in this game. But I do have a trick up my sleeve because I did run into this Contact Specialist. I would say this might be the most complex card in the base set. Contact Specialist has a lot of icons. It's kind of, can be a little intimidating, but basically what it's saying is I have -1 to my total military, but I can place a military world as a regular world and pay for it with regular cards, and additionally I have a discount of 1. So what that means basically is I could place this Malevolent Life Forms. Instead of having 4 military, which I clearly don't have, I could place it by paying 3 cards, because I'm placing it with cards, and then I get that discount of 1. But I can't do that yet, because I haven't built Contact Specialists, and these cards, you only reap the benefits of the powers once they are in play in your empire. But I still like it, and since I said I wanted to do some production, I think I'm going to get rid of this Windfall world. So there's a difference between planets. Some of the planets come with this like filled in background of like a blue or yellow or green or brown, and that means they're a production world, and that means in this 5th phase when you're producing, each of these are going to acquire automatically 1 good of that kind. The kind is like novelty, alien, rare, or genes that I mentioned. These planets that don't have the filled in color are called Windfall worlds, and they come with a good as soon as you place them, which is great. But they don't continue to produce goods every time the production phase is chosen, and I kind of want to do production, so I think I'm going to ditch that one, hit OK, and hope for the best. So at this point, I do want to take advantage of the fact that my opponents both chose the settlement phase. This one's going to cost me 3, so I'll just go ahead and pay for that, and I'll get rid of this one, and that one to pay for it. And at this point, I'm starting to really want some more goods. It wasn't totally worth it for me to produce before because I only had 1 planet, but now that I have 2, I think it might be worth it for me to do that production phase. So I will do that. Cool. Alright, so now I could start trying to make victory points. I don't have a lot of victory point generation going on. Like, I could make up to 2 a turn, and I know that because I have 2 production worlds and 2 powers that turn 1 good into 1 victory point each. So I could be making, and when you choose the double victory consume phase, you get to double that. So I could be making 4 victory points per turn. It's not tons. And I think I might want to get this one going. So what I might do, actually, is I might hope that my opponent chooses a consume trade or consume double victory power. That way I can get my black market trading world to give me some cards. And in the meantime, I might do this development settle thing to get this card out there to get a little bit more victory point generation and card generation going. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to bank on them choosing a consume power, and I'm going to look at development here. And I was wrong. I totally was wrong on that, and they didn't. The AI in this game is really good at identifying what you're trying to do and not feeding into your strategy. The AI was developed by Jones. It's neural networks. It's training and getting better. It's really good. So they completely hosed me there, and now I have no card. I was banking on getting some more cards there, but you know, such is life. So maybe, I mean, they've got this. Okay, so now what I can do is I can look and see. Okay, their hand size is a 1. They are hurting for cards. I'm in the same position. I'm hurting for cards. But whoever chooses the trade action is going to help all the other players. Maybe not. But I'm going to benefit if someone else chooses it, because then I can choose something else and still get the benefit because I have that black market trading world here with this trade power. So I might just go ahead and do an explore and again hope for the best. Oh, I made a trade. That worked out for me. So this trade power corresponds to this optional consume double victory or trade there, and that's what I was hoping for. So I will ditch this card. And now I couldn't settle because I couldn't afford any of my cards. If I had 1 more card in hand, I could have afforded this one, but I didn't, and that's just life. So I will trade one of these, and then I have to use one of my consume victory point cards. So I'll do that here. So now that worked out really well, and I want to get some more goods on my planets. You can only have up to 1 good on each planet, so I will do the production action again. Drop it in, and development was chosen. Seems. I don't know if I want that. I'm gonna pass on that. That might be. Try to get that settlement going. Passing on development again. I think it's possible that I'm going to lose the AI, that would be fair. Alright. think I'm gonna go production. I'm gonna hope for again a consume action on their part so that I'm exhausting some of the goods on my planets. And it worked out. So I will do that. Now I'm gonna produce that. It's getting a little late in the game for me. I was hoping to get more of a victory point engine, but as you can see, my opponents both have more victory points, and this is not working out too well for me. But it can only go up from here. So I think I will go ahead and do a double victory action. Okay. I was hoping to keep that new economy because it gives me 5 victory points, which is actually a dynamic score based on so all of the 6 cost developments give you victory points based on different strategies. So this new economy is all about consumption, so not only does it give me a power, which I can draw a card every time any player has chosen the consumption phase for that round. Additionally, at the end of the game, I can get 2 points per development with a consumed power, including this one, and 1 point per world with a consumed power. And I do have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 worlds with consumed powers right now, plus that one. But I think it's going to be more important for me to get going with this consumed double victory, and again, because the windfall worlds come in to play with a good on them, I'm going to be able to exercise my double victory on the good that comes on this one right now, and I think that might be worth it. I could be wrong. So I will do that here, and I think here, and so I've really focused on getting victory points this turn instead of cards with my goods, but I'm out of victory point powers, so I can go ahead and use this trade power on malevolent life forms and get a bunch of cards, which hopefully will turn into some more points for me. And someone else produced, which is handy because I can kind of piggyback off that. I don't have to produce myself, and that's kind of neat. There's this, you know, you can get in a rhythm with another player if they're choosing the consume produce sort of point engine route versus. There's a few different strategies you could take in this game. You could do an engine to build up points. You can find rare worlds like alien worlds that have intrinsic high victory point values attached to them. Or you can just rush military and try to end the game before anyone else has a chance to do anything. I'm finally getting a little bit of a victory point engine. It's probably not going to be enough, but I'm starting to catch up. I'm at 19, they're at 21, 23, which is a closer gap than it was at before. So I'll go ahead and do my consumed victory because they were so nice to produce. And I will ditch this one. So that's an interesting thing. I already have an exact replica of this card in play, investment credits, and there is a rule in this game in which you cannot have 2 of the exact same card in play. It really only comes up for developments because there are copies of developments in the game. There aren't really copies of the settlement planets. So I know right away I can ditch that one, and it's not something I even have to think about. I'm probably going to do an art treatment on it to make it even more clear that that's something that you will not be able to legally play, because sometimes people get into a phase where they would play that card and are a little confused because they may not know the rule about that. The nice thing is that we are paying attention to the forums and Reddit and Board Game Geek and stuff like that so that we can see people's feedback and roll out features and fixes to make the game even better. I think I'm going to get rid of this one because I'm not doing a ton of trading these days. There gets to be a tipping point in this game where you kind of stop doing trading and you start doing consuming for victory points. And I feel like we're beyond that. We're just 2 cards away from someone triggering the end of the game over here. So, let's see, no production was chosen. And I have 1, 2, 3 goods. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could choose this one because it's going to generate some cards for me if it lasts around, which it very well will. It doesn't look like there's a way to end it right now. So I'll do this, and I do have a discount on development, so maybe I'll ditch that one. Alright, so I can use that, and that one. And now I can get 5 cards out of association, and I will hopefully be able to do a development. Now, what I really want to do is a production and get more points and use my victory point powers now to get even more points. But probably what's going to happen is if I choose produce, this round I'll produce, but the end of the game is going to get triggered by AI1 by placing one more card, and so I won't be able to do anything with the goods that I've produced. So even though that's the track I'm on, I'm going to switch tack, and I think I'm just going to try to close it out with getting as many victory points directly as I can. And this free trade association is pretty good for that. It gives me 2 points per production world, which I have 2 of these blue production worlds. 1 point per windfall blue world, which I have 1 of, and 2 points for consumer markets or expanding colony. I don't have either of those, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to hit them all. You just want to get a good value. So the question is, do I think someone else is going to develop, in which case I might settle, and I think it's too high of a risk. I don't have any settlement that's worth so much, so I'm going to hope that someone else settles, and maybe I can afford to do this one. They probably won't, because I noticed the AI. Oh, they did. I've been wrong twice now. Alright, so I'll post that one. 1, 2, 3. And again, it's the end of the game. I don't have to be too careful about which cards I'm ditching as my payment, because I know I'm not going to have any other opportunities to play these cards, so I just get rid of them willy-nilly. It's okay to confirm. And I can't quite afford this one anyways, which I could figure out. Oh! And they didn't end the game, which they could have, but I have slipped into first place. So the AI probably realized that if it ended the game right now, it would lose. Sucka. So now I have a choice. If I can just get one more card, I can place this pirate world, which would cost me 2 in conjunction with my contact specialist, and would also trigger into my free trade association with an extra point there. So 3 points for 2 is a pretty good value, but I would have to choose settle and hope someone else doesn't explore, which would give me an extra card. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to afford either of my settlements. So the other thing I could do is choose an explore and hope that someone else settles. Easy AI 2 is probably going to do an explore because they have such a minimal hand, but what they might do is have a military world in hand, which could cost 4 or actually they have a couple of rebel military power. They have 4 military and up to 8 rebel military, because there's a concept of specialized military, and they have this extra 4 specialized rebel military. So if I'm unlucky enough that they have one of those cards in hand, they could place it right now without needing something else. So they might not choose Explore. AI1 is pretty flush with cards. They have 8. There's a hand limit of 10, so 8 is pretty good. They're probably not going to Explore. They're probably going to do a Develop or something like that. So the choice for me is, do I want to Explore and hope that someone else chooses Settle, or do I want to choose Settle and hope that someone else explores? And I'm going to hope that Easy AI 2 does not have a nice, juicy military card in hand. They have to Explore, and I'm going to go for Settle, and this is Gamble. And no Explore. But I still won! By 1 point. I had a little wiggle room. So it was a really close game, and normally I would think that I'm better than the Easy AI, but clearly I'm not that much better. 1 point. So thanks for watching, and I hope that maybe you like this game and you'll add me as a friend, because you can play it on your phone, and my phone's booting up right now. I was going to give my friend code, but maybe I'll post that later. But it's always fun to play more multiplayer games with other folks. So that's about it.